Hi guys. So if you can please raise a virtual hand when you'd like to ask a question. Beth, kick off with you.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, Wayne, Dan, an incredible end to that match. But first to you, Wayne, how would you reflect on that 80 minutes for Wales?
Yeah, really two halves, wasn't it? The first half we were disappointed with the discipline. I think we gave away 8 penalties at the breakdown. That was with and without the ball. So we talked about that at halftime. Now, obviously, you know, you're chasing a half, then you can't really get a foothold in the game. So we conceded points, and obviously going 17-0 down wasn't the way we wanted to start the second half. So that was frustrating, but obviously a very, very good end to the game, but a very frustrating try that we conceded.
You said about, you know, being 17-0 down, but in your eyes, where did it go wrong for Wales, and where in reflection could you have done better?
Clearly, the penalties that I mentioned in the first half to concede those points, it meant that we were chasing the game. Disappointed with the try. It was the only try we conceded in the match, and I think if we had an opportunity to review that try, it probably wouldn't have been given. So that was frustrating, but to the players' credit, they got straight back on the horse and, you know, came back with 2 very good tries. And, you know, we were there right at the death trying to win the match. So very pleased with that second half.
Wales showed at times what they can do with ball in hand. Does that give you confidence moving forwards into the next round?
Yeah, look, you're always trying to build on the performances, and there's plenty to take out of that game, which was pretty positive. As I said, in that second half, you know, we did get the ball in hand a lot more. We built phases. We started to win some collisions. We were getting some reasonably quick ball, and we looked dangerous and scored 2 tries, and we went far off a third match-winning one.
Dan, to you, we spoke earlier in the week about Wales having to start strong and fast. And, you know, it was the same almost against Ireland. How disappointed are you with that first half, especially?
Yeah, well, very disappointed, obviously, because probably shaped the way the game has gone, hasn't it? In terms of us probably having to chase the game a little bit, and we would have liked to have put a lot more shape on them in the first half than we did in the second half, sort of thing. So yeah, it was just a combination really of not being able to retain ball in contact and obviously break down penalties, which just stopped any attack and flow for us in terms of backing up good on good, really. So yeah, pretty disappointing with the start, but like Wayne has mentioned, it was really pleasing for us to find some real shape in that second half and play some really good rugby and stretch England as much as we did. But you know, ultimately, I think it's going to be, the main headline is going to be, you know, you can't start poorly in places like the Aviva or Twickenham and expect to pick up results, really.
Obviously, we also spoke about, you know, how crucial round 3 is. Now, that means obviously, with, you know, I'm not Carol Vorderman, but it looks like Wales is retaining the championship. It looks out of your hands completely now. How do you feel about that?
Well, obviously disappointed to be 2 down after 3 rounds. Clearly, we have 2 games left, 2 home games, and from our point of view, those games are very, very important. You know, so we'd like to finish the competition strongly, especially at home. And you know, what better place to try and pick up a big result against France, who are playing so well at the moment.
Last one for me. Some standout performances. Alex Cuthbert on his 50th cap, and you know Watkin and the some of the players. Could you kind of give me your opinion on some of the performance out there for Wales today?
Well, I thought Alex in his 50th game was immense. You know, he was the guy that was coming off his wing. He was taking the ball down the right flank. Then within a couple of phases, taking the ball down the left flank in the 80th minute of the game. You know, he was superb, and he obviously enjoyed the opportunity and played well. I thought there were some very good performances. I think a lot of the bench came on, and in fact, all of them added impact. So that was very, very pleasing. But yeah, it's just frustrating that we didn't get a result for those players.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, coming to Nick.
Wayne, how difficult is it to fix those discipline issues that you've talked about in training, especially as against a side like France, who will do their best to stress your defence, as we've seen in their performances so far?
Yeah, well, they're very good at the breakdown, aren't they? They're doing very well at the defensive breakdown. Look, our boys, some of them were silly penalties, weren't they? You know, not rolling away, so getting trapped on the wrong side of the tackle situation. And then, you know, a couple of times we're probably too good in terms of a couple of the line breaks we made and got isolated, but those things happen. So yeah, it's an area of the game which we're working hard on, and it's something that we need to get right for France because they're dangerous in that area.
And Dan, how much do you think Wales have to improve to find top gear and put those maybe 30 minutes of performance today into an 80 minutes?
Yeah, well, it's it's the starts for us at the minute away from home, isn't it? Which has caused us problems in the two away games. So when you're behind in the scoreboard, it's also when you're ahead on the scoreboard, it's a lot easier to dictate play. It allows you to choose between whether you want to play a territorial game or a possession-based game. So we were almost forced in a little bit into playing a possession game in that second half, which worked for us because we played some really good rugby. But like I said, it's a difficult place to come if you cough up as many penalties as we did on this afternoon. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, we've got to make sure that we start games a lot better. We started well against Scotland, and it allowed us a foothold in the game. We didn't start well against Ireland, and we didn't start well here today, and it didn't allow us a foothold. So it's imperative that we start games well, which stops the game getting away from you when you have to force it.
And Wayne, how much is there still to be played for in the season's championship now that the title looks beyond you?
Well, there's 2 test matches. They're both at home. Hopefully a sellout crowd in both. So there's plenty to play for, Nick.
Thanks, guys.
Coming to Matt next, please.
Hi Wayne, you've touched on that try early in the second half. I was just curious, do you think Adam Beard was pushed out of that line-out before he got off the floor?
Yes, he was. He was chased down the line-out and bumped, which you can't do, but unfortunately that wasn't picked up and the try stands.
Obviously a bit of a frustrating one, or maybe a difficult one for you to take then, because that was decisive in the end.
Yeah, it's not very often that you throw close to your line over the top to the opposition player that's standing waiting to catch the ball. So, it's just unfortunate no one picked it up. But certainly at the replay that we've seen, there was an offence there, we thought anyway.
Dan, if I could just come to you quickly about Alex Cuthbert. I think he's made 176 metres today, according to the early stats. I can't remember the last time I saw a player make that many metres. You've been with him for his entire career at test level, really. Given the context of it, that was a fantastic performance from him today. Yeah,
Cathy was unbelievable, wasn't he? It was almost a little bit like sort of 2013, 2014 Alex Cuthbert, wasn't it? In terms of he looked in his prime today and looked strong and powerful in contact. And like I said, a really something that you'd be really proud of on his 50th. Just really disappointing that we couldn't quite get the result for probably a performance which if we're on the right side of the scoreboard, then he's man of the match every day of the week, isn't he? But disappointing for him for that, but he was immense.
Just last one for me, Wayne. Obviously, early on you had 2 HIAs, Owen Watkin and Thomas Francis. Both looked like pretty heavy blows. Can you just clarify the process that those guys had to follow before returning to the field?
Yeah, they go through some testing behind the scenes, and they both passed the testing, so they're allowed to play on. So, they'll be checked again after the game, and we'll keep an eye on them. And obviously, if they're cleared, then they're back into training as soon as they're cleared.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, and we'll finish up with Alex.
Dan, you talked about the breakdown penalties, but it seemed in both the first half, both teams struggled to sort of get to grips with Mike Adamson's interpretation of the game. Is that fair?
Probably we felt like we were probably not quite on the right end of it. Certainly, I think though, you look at probably some of the calls are perhaps debatable, but some are clear as well. So it's one of those where we got no complaints about the performance of the referee at all. It's we've got to look at ourselves and the start that we made in that first 20-25 minutes probably. We probably deserved to be down on the scoreboard, however way it was. But we just coughed up a lot of penalties and just found it difficult to get to grips with it. Yeah.
And when you got those 2 tries in the second half, the speed of ball and the ruck clear out seemed to really speed up. I just wondered what your thought process was in terms of how the difference.
Well, we managed to put phases together where we actually made some decent dents in that first half. But we just couldn't back up good on good. We sort of allowed pressure to be released from England's point of view. And in the second half, we managed to keep ball and stress them for large periods, which didn't allow the pressure to be released, and it forced the pressure back onto England. So it was really pleasing. We worked on our shape a lot, and we know we haven't quite got it right probably in the first couple of weekends, but I thought we threatened the line, and we brought a lot of players into play really well today. Now, we've got to get that on the pitch from minute one, because that allows us to, like I mentioned previously, it allows us to dictate the way the game goes, as opposed to reacting to the way the game has gone. So it's important for us to make sure we get that on the pitch early doors, as opposed to it being reactionary.
And lastly, for me, Wayne, France looked pretty decent today. How much of a step up are you going to have to do for that game?
Yeah, we've had two fantastic matches over the last couple of Six Nations, so they're a very good side. They're improving all the time, and I haven't seen the entire match, obviously, but heard they played very well. So look, it's going to be a great game. If the last two are anything to go by.
Okay, Will, is this a question? Do you want a question for us as well?
Yeah, please, if that's all right.
We can do one at the end, and
Yeah, Dan, can I ask you one? Obviously, England were intending to play Manu Tuilagi in this game, and he had to withdraw late. What did you see from where you were standing about how him not being there changed your attack? And did you feel it was easier to defend against him with Daly and Slade in the centres?
I wouldn't say it was easier. Well, I think what Manu gives England is very straight up and down, and it challenges you physically, whereas they've obviously used Slade and Daly as sort of second ball playing options, kicking options, obviously with their left pegs as well. So they had a variety to the game, which just allowed them to play with three playmakers almost, in terms of, and obviously it allowed them to play a territory game in that first 25 minutes and squeeze us a little bit. So yeah, but obviously very different players to how they'd have played if Manu was in the team. But I thought, yeah, like I said, Elliott and Slade were good in terms of making sure that they played in the right areas early doors and pressured us.
Thanks, Dan. Cheers.
As well.
okay, thanks all.